Let's have a look around Australia at what's happening with the real estate market. And I guess the best way to determine that, given the fact that it's all about buyer confidence, is to talk to buyers agents. And there is an association in Australia made up of all the buyers agents, or the best buyers agents around Australia. It's called the Real Estate Buyers Agents Association of Australia. So let's check in with them. Well, we all know that buyer confidence is a major indicator for what's happening in the market, and let's find out about buyer confidence, particularly in New South Wales. I'm talking to well-known author, guest on many occasions in our shows, Patrick Bright from EPS Property Search. Hi, Patrick.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
Good, mate. Buyer confidence. What are you hearing, mate?
Well, what we're seeing is there's a reasonable amount at the moment of buyers out there looking. They're still a bit cheeky with their offers. They're not. If you believe everything you read in the paper, you think the market's falling in Sydney as well, but it seems to be holding up pretty well. So there's buyers out there buying, particularly in that under 600 bracket at the moment. Our state government's pulling the pin on first home buyer free stamp duty on the 30th of December, so that's had a bit of a renewed bounce in that sub 600 bracket because that's where it caps out. So that's sort of where the market's happening at the moment. It's pretty much stick to the inner rings within that 10 to 20k of the CBD, and properties are trading. But the higher you go, the softer the market is. It's pretty much just on a sliding scale like that.
Yeah, good on you, mate. Thank you. Patrick Bright there from EPS Property Search, a buyer's agent in New South Wales. Thanks, Patrick.
Thanks, Kevin.
Let's go to Tasmania this time. We're talking to Rob Zubin from My Property Hunter. Rob is also the National Secretary of REBAA, which is the National Real Estate Buyers Association. Rob, what advice are you giving buyers and sellers right now about where the market's at?
There are still buyers wanting to buy property. What we've found is that they're spending a lot more time doing research, going to open homes, inspecting properties probably 3 or 4 times before they're willing to make an offer on something.
Do you think they're much more cautious now, Rob?
Very much so. Much more cautious because of the range of media that talks about doom and gloom. In Tasmania, we've found that vendors are having to realise that their expectation of price isn't going to occur, and buyers are realising that the market hasn't dropped out of the floor. It's still competitive in Tassie up to $400,000.
What's the level of negotiation that is the difference between the list price and the eventual sales price? What are you seeing, Rob?
In the competitive range up to $400,000, there might be 5 to 7%. A higher range, it could be 10 to 15%. So that's in price 800,000 plus, where there's been a significant adjustment in expectation rather than price value.
Thanks, Rob. Let's go to Victoria now. I'm talking to Warwick Brooks from Domain Property Advocates, buyers agents in Victoria. Warwick, what are you hearing about the market? What's the sentiment like right now?
Well, at the moment, the market has definitely come off in the last 4 to 6 months. We've seen in inner city areas a drop of around about 5% for good properties and 10% for properties that aren't that good. Where we're seeing probably the biggest effect is in the house and land package areas surrounding Melbourne. We've had reports from some of the larger builders that their sales are currently down 40 to 50%. That is going to have an on effect in the marketplace where the developers are going to start discounting stock, which will have more of a negative impact on the second-hand market. Auction rates currently in Melbourne are struggling. Many of the properties are being bought after auctions or the following day and are still being claimed as being sold. We're seeing at the auctions we're attending that there is about a 60% pass-in rate.
Yeah, so you've really got to watch those figures, haven't you, and watch what's happening. Warwick Brooks there from Domain Property Advocates in Melbourne. Let's go across to WA this time and have a talk to Damien Collins, who's a buyer's agent there with Momentum Wealth. Damien, what are you hearing? What's buyer sentiment like in WA right now?
Kevin, it's getting better. We're certainly starting to see a little bit more activity. WA had a big run-up and boom from 04 to early 07, and then pretty much since then it's been flatlining. What we've seen is a lot of stock come on the market, and at one point we had 18,000 listings in Perth in particular. A normal market, they would say, would be around about 13 or so thousand. What we've seen over the last 4 months is a steady decline in the listings. 2 months ago to 4 months ago, we'd be the only offers out there. Now we're starting to see a bit of competition. We're seeing investors start to come back a little bit in first home buyers, so that under 600 bracket's doing okay. The top end, though, has got some time away yet to run. That's still a little bit of oversupply. When
you're negotiating on behalf of your buyers, Damien, what sort of levels are you going in at under the asking price?
Kevin, look, it really depends on the property. If we sort of sense out and speak to the selling agent, as to what level of interest there is. It might be sometimes 10% over, so if it's on for, say, 450, we might try our luck around 400 and see how motivated the seller really is, but it just depends on the level of competition. But look, we're finding that the desperate sellers, the really highly motivated sellers are dwindling. There's not quite as many of them as there was 3 to 4 months ago.
And to round out our national roundup of what the market's looking like, let's have a look at the Queensland market. We turn to Liz Wilcox, who is the Queensland Buyers Agent of the Year for the REIQ, and she's from Hot Property Specialists, also quoted quite regularly in a number of investment magazines. Liz, how do you think the market's faring at present?
We're seeing that buyers' confidence is on the rise, Kevin. Over the last 6 to 12 months, we've seen, the fall of some of the volumes of sales in Queensland, fall in construction and the fall in the asking prices of some of the properties. The last 2 months, the sub-600 market, we're seeing telltale signs that the market is rising. Strong interest in the market. Sellers are starting to meet the market with their pricing. Shorter times that the properties are on the market for. Sellers who are unrealistic have taken their properties off the market, so there isn't as many on the market over the last 2 months. So we're quite confident that over the next 6 to 12 months, Queensland will be recovering from the downturn that we've had in the property market.
What about properties over $1 million? How do you think they're faring, Liz?
They're still struggling, really, really struggling. We've actually seen some significant price dropping. Properties that have gone to auction, didn't sell at auction, and then have been marketed without a price. These sellers' expectations have severely been damaged and had to sell for a hell of a lot less than they were expecting.
Liz, thanks for your time. Talking to Liz Wilcox there from Hot Property Specialist Buyers Agents for the Queensland market.